All right, let's get real. Why do some people absolutely dominate while others barely scrape by? Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, lays it all out. The secret? It's not about what you do or how you do it. It's about why you do it. And if you're not starting with why, you're leaving money, loyalty, and impact on the table. Let me break it down for you. At the heart of this is the golden circle. Picture three layers. Why, which is your purpose, your belief, and your reason for existing. How, which is your unique process and values. And what, your product or service. Most people start with what. For example, we sell computers. But the greats, they flip the script. They start with why. For example, Apple doesn't just sell gadgets. They believe in challenging the status quo. That's why people line up for hours to buy their stuff. It's not the product, it's the belief. And it's not just companies. Think about Martin Luther King Jr. He didn't say, I have a plan. He said, I have a dream. That dream, that was his why. It inspired millions. Same with the Wright brothers. They didn't have the cash or the connections, but they have a purpose. And that purpose, it got them off the ground, literally. And here's the kicker. It isn't just feel-good fluff. It's biology. Your why hits people in the limbic brain, the part that drives emotions and decisions. The what, that's for the neocortex, the logical side. But you have to understand, logic doesn't inspire action. Emotion does. That's why people buy into your why and not your what. Now, let's talk tactics. Sinek, in his book, calls out manipulative strategies such as discounts, fear, pressure. Sure, they work short-term, but they don't build trust. And trust? That's the real game changer. When you start with why, you create loyalty. People don't just buy from you, they believe in you. So how do you find your why? Reflect on your values, your beliefs, your defining moments. What gets you out of bed in the morning? That's your why. Once you've got it, align everything, your actions, your messaging, your culture, with that purpose. And don't just talk about it, live it, show it. People can smell fate from a mile away. Let's break this down further with some examples. Apple is the poster child for starting with why. They don't just sell computers or phones. They sell a belief in challenging the status quo. Their why is so clear that it's baked into everything they do, from their sleep designs to their marketing campaigns. That's why people don't just buy Apple products. They buy into Apple. They're part of a movement, not just a transaction. Now, compare that to companies that rely on manipulative tactics like discounts or fear-based messaging. Sure, they might get a quick sale, but they're not building loyalty. They're not creating a tribe of raving fans. And when the next competitor comes along with a better deal, and the next competitor always comes along with a better deal, those customers are gone. So starting with why, it isn't just a feel-good idea, it's a competitive advantage. Let's talk about Martin Luther King Jr. for a second. He didn't rally millions of people by laying out a 10-point plan. He inspired them with a vision, a dream of equality and justice. His why was so powerful that it moved people to action. They didn't follow him because of what he was doing. They followed him because of why he was doing it. That's the power of starting with why. And then there's the Wright brothers. These guys didn't have the money, the resources, or the connections that their competitor, Samuel Langley, had. But they had something that Langley didn't. They had a purpose. They were driven by a belief that powered flight could change the world, and that belief, it inspired their team to work tirelessly, even when the odds were stacked against them. Langley, on the other hand, was in it for the fame and fortune, and when he failed, he gave up. But the Wright brothers succeeded because they had a why that kept them going. Now, let's get into the science behind this. Sinek ties the golden circle to the structure of the human brain. The why corresponds to the limbic brain, which governs emotions, trust, and decision-making. The what aligns with the neocortex, responsible for rational thought and language. This is why starting with why creates a deeper emotional connection. It speaks to the part of the brain that drives behavior. People don't make decisions based on logic alone. They make them based on how they feel. And when you start with why, you're tucking into that emotional core. But here's the thing. Starting with why isn't just about marketing. It's about leadership. Great leaders don't just tell people what to do, they inspire them. They create a sense of purpose and belonging that motivates people to take action. Think about John F. Kennedy's famous speech, "We choose to go to the moon." He didn't just lay out a technical plan, he inspired the nation with a vision. That's what great leaders do. They start with why. We choose. So, how do you apply this in your own life or business? Well, first, you've got to figure out your why. It isn't always easy, but it is worth the effort. Start by reflecting on your values, your beliefs, and your defining moments. What drives you? What do you stand for? Once you've defined your why, make sure it's at the center of everything you do. Your actions, your messaging, your culture. It all has to align with your why. And don't just talk about your why, live it. People can tell when you're faking it. Authenticity is key. When your actions align with your why, you build trust. And trust, that's the foundation of loyalty. It's what turns customers into advocates and employees into believers. Here's the bottom line. Starting with why isn't just a strategy, it's a mindset. It's how you build trust, how you inspire action, and how you create something that lasts. So stop selling products, start selling your beliefs. Because when you lead with why, you don't just make sales, you make history. So let's wrap this up with a challenge. Take a look at your business, your career, or your life. Are you starting with why? If not, it's time to make a change. Figure out your purpose, your belief, your reason for existing, and then align everything you do with that why. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Because when you start with why, you're not just building a business, you're building a legacy. So what's your why? Find it, live it, share it, and watch what happens. You'll inspire others, you'll build trust, and you'll create something that stands the test of time. That's the power of starting with why, and that is how you win. If you found this breakdown helpful, you'll love my other book reviews on personal growth and leadership. Tap follow so you don't miss out. And before you go, tell me in the comments what's one big lesson that you're taking from Start With Why. I'd love to hear what drives you. And if you think this video helped you think differently, send it later and share it with a friend who needs some inspiration.